because I'm working on documenting my life in all aspects. Thank you to the family who is renting the apartment above the garage, who is helping, sustain an income on these properties so that they can stay in my family and not have to be sold. Thank you for fixing the deck today to the second story above my garage. And if my mom doesn't say it enough, like, we're grateful to have you here, grateful to be a part of your life. And, you guys did amazing work and you were super kind. And I'm very grateful to have opened up my heart to you all, to the DiMaggio family. Thank you. Joey DiMaggio is a carpenter. He did a wonderful job. And I have to double check on his wife's name, but his daughter's name is Hope. How long does it take walking in the light of God, doing your best to be as sinless as possible before you see the fruits of your labor? I don't know, but I worked, with a U-Turn for Christ through my love of what they were doing on helping rehabilitate those in need. And, met a young man there who'd been in a really bad accident, like my mother, who had a traumatic brain injury. And he was sweet and kind. He did a wonderful job at, the thrift store. And they got a lot of stuff there on donations, and, the people that were regulars that came in all the time, like, he made sure to take care of them. To Robert, wherever you are today, I hope you are the man you were meant to be. Thank you for the new family who is now in the home, in the program that I worked with my grandmother that helped, find homeless people houses, and were willing to cover their rent while they got stable. When I left Florida, I left behind all of the trauma and all of the things that happened to me there. And maybe that's not your story there. Maybe you didn't live a life like that. But there is a charm to small towns. And I lived in a smaller town a little bit away from Gainesville. It wasn't like this for me, but maybe it's like that for others. I prayed to God. I confessed my sins, the things that hurt me most in this lifetime that happened to me. And I prayed to God to help, me go to the place that I was meant to be. And, my grandparents were ill and it was COVID. And, I got in a box truck and drove all my mom's stuff across the country. I packed it all up and I moved it. And I got out here, and my grandfather, he didn't want to see me. He was afraid he was going to get COVID. So he stayed on the other side of the house, away from where we were. I don't know if he was still upset over what happened the last time I was here when I was a child. And I came to talk about what I'd been through as an infant. They weren't prepared to deal with. But, you know, my daughter's father went back to Florida and I stayed because my grandpa was sick in the hospital, and my mom and my grandma asked me to stay. And I went in that hospital room before my grandpa died. And I helped clean his body and put music on and love on him. And I told him that I promised I was here to save my grandmother and my mother's soul. I meant it. You know, he got to spend a lot of time with me and know the woman that I was. He only knew the stories and the pain that was a mirror from my mom's own existence. But maybe my testimony before my friends, my followers, and my creator will help him let go so he too can see the light. The Alvarez family, I am so grateful to the family you were, to my mother, after she survived what she had survived. And maybe we didn't understand where we came from. And my grandma wasn't prepared that the demons from her husband could have been so big. They could have carried on to the next generation. But I ain't broken my wedding vows. I know I'm married to God. You know, tonight, I went to clean the car of my grandmother's that I got. She left me the day before she died. She handed me the keys to. And there was this axe that was in my grandfather's stuff when I was cleaning out the property. And, sorry, the dog's giving me kisses. And there was a hole in the backseat headrest. You know, when I went to Vegas to walk around as an angel to try to save the souls from Sin City and bring the news from there about what it's really like. To my papa, Nicholas Nicola, I love you so much and I miss you every day. And my Tuma, and the first family I ever told the truth after what I went through as a baby. I hope you're there to get my grandma through the gates of heaven. And I hope she's finally ready to see the fucking light I am for her. This is my life and my story. and my testimony for my family. And if heaven don't look like looking at your ancestors and your children and your grandchildren and the people they become, then you ain't no fucking family of mine. You know, tonight I made a mistake. I thought, my friend's dogs poked a hole in my headrest because I was driving them around to do work, construction, to help give them an education. And once you start, it's real hard to stop. What I have, I share. What I give freely. But when you start standing up for yourself, it's hard for God not to testify so they know everything you've given them. It's hard not to be greedy here, but I am not greedy. And those around me are still learning how not to be. To my great-grandparents, Jesus and Josephine Alvarez, I'm so grateful that you guys offered me a place to hide. And I don't know how I would have survived what I did with the family I was given here if it wasn't for you. To my grandmother, who never saw my grandfather put his hands on a woman. Maybe raising your daughter was already a second chance. When you come home from the military and you're taught that certain things are okay, it's real hard to escape those kind of demons. To my uncle Tony Michael Anthony Alvarez, you were right. My grandpa, my step-grandfather, put his hands on his wife, and I saw the letters from his father telling him if he ever put his hands on her again, he'd disown him. That's maybe what fathers do for sons. And why certain relationships don't get repaired. To the mother of Michael and Billy, thank you for raising such a wonderful sons. My uncle, my step-uncle, and his brother are both amazing men. And one of them, decided he didn't want to partake in relationships with women. But he told me he'd be damn proud to call me his daughter. And when I told him about what happened, and I asked him to keep my secrets, he went straight to my mother, and he told her. And then they flew me out here. These are my family's secrets, and I ain't afraid to tell on them. This is where we came from. But I'll take the origin. I'll take the truth that all life experiences needed to be lived for a system to learn what was okay and what wasn't, and why we hold the 10 Commandments as the laws that reign supreme. so my grandpa can lay his demons to rest and the mistake his mother, who was an angel of a woman, to bed. I'm sorry that we weren't there as a collective consciousness and as mothers that knew to tell our sons that you put God first. They put a weapon in your hand. You tell them that my God says no. You let them kick you out of the military because you put God first. And if that don't work, I guess it's your time, son. You go to heaven. You don't pull that fucking trigger. It's a trap. If you ain't had enough pain, you go get you some more. But we ain't fighting wars over Bibles no more. If they don't want me, and they don't want my son Jesus Christ, they ain't coming to heaven. They don't believe my son walked with God, and that God spoke through him. He came to put his name on his daughter. I didn't pick my names. I didn't pick the ones that was in my life. God gave me. So that when I sat here and I testified and told you I walked with God, there was no doubt this time. I'm sorry it's so dark out here. Pick up a phone, pick up a piece of paper, and tell your truth. The books of the Bible still being written across all timelines. And all it is you talking about how you knew there was a God for you. Me, I'm gonna give you God every single possible way, so you always know He existed. No matter where we are in creation, my God's here to walk us down the aisle, down to heaven's gates. And if my daddy and his mama sitting in heaven right now ain't proud of me, then you tell me to get rid of that Dan Grado last name. Because this ain't no dang redo. This is forever. Amen. And if you haven't already, please like, follow, subscribe, share, comment down below.